Hello. Whew. So let's not do this too long, but I'm going to change my voice to this. To this! I'm going to change my voice into this. This is going to be a squeaky voice. Voice. So now, let's react to Space Doc. Space. Oh, let's react.
Just on Spotify. If it's not yet visible in your region, it will be soon, so keep an eye out. If you're unsure of what it even is, you can also visit their YouTube channel for free samples and lore videos.
Because let this happen.
The Sojourn, now available on Spotify.
Because it's entertaining.
Hey everyone, I'm Hujiwana, and this...
Sorry, I've been doing a lot of work. So. Okay, so now I can put this squeaky
inspiration function over form. Naval influence is obviously everywhere in sci-fi, especially as we even call them ships. It's hard to get any more influence than straight up taking their name. In terms of design though, it can be extremely obvious, like with the Yamato, or a bit more subtle, coming through in nomenclature and traditions. Instead of Enterprise may not look like a ship, but the way the crew work included a bosun's whistle and that sort of thing. The other naval route is to take inspiration from submarines, but I did a video on that already. Much of how sci-fi spacecraft are portrayed is also naval, like the way they move and fight, which is taken straight from the pages of history with torpedoes and big broadsides at ridiculously short ranges.
Including aircraft, because Star Wars have a lot of aircraft like space battle. Even though if you scientifically see it, it doesn't make sense. But it's sci-fi.
Following portrayals of what happened there. I've spoken about this before in reference to fighter combat. Go check that video out too if you haven't already. And fighters is generally where the aircraft inspiration tends to end up. There are some exceptions though, such as the flight model in the Orville, which does have generally things zoom about like a plane would. The two versions of Mass Effect Normandy are also very much based on high-performance aircraft like the SR-71. However, it's pretty rare for something to be inspired by helicopters, and if they are, it's usually some sort of utility transport, though my beloved Gunstar is one notable exception. As for function over form spacecraft, this generally ends up being those on the harder end of sci-fi, as going down that route tends to mean ignoring outside influence entirely. In those settings that dial back the realism here and there, though, other styles can find their way back in, and due to the realities of thrust gravity ignoring outside influence into under render sci-fi, as going down that route tends to mean ignoring outside influence entirely. In those settings that dial back the realism here and there, though, other styles can find their way back in, and due to the realities of thrust gravity, these can sometimes end up looking like buildings. Which brings me around to the bulk of what I want to talk about today, using architecture as inspiration for spacecraft designs. I had to think about it, and this happens more than I first realized. There's obvious things like gold ships being pyramids, but our spooky ships video in October had a lot of this going on. First, there's the USS Cygnus, and its enormous structure is reminiscent of 19th century glass and iron buildings, like the destroyed Crystal Palace or various greenhouses. The massive interior space that runs down the core of the ship gives me Paddington Station vibes as well, and I feel this aesthetic is really
British.
Overlooked as being old-fashioned, where most sci-fi wants to be either clean and iPod-y or dirty and lived in. Which is a bit of a shame because of going on as well. I mean, the Eiffel Tower is damn near a spaceship already, though it's not necessary to go that far, especially in harder sci-fi stuff. More realistic ship designs can often have truss work and substructures of that nature, and they can make very good use of raw-time tracery-style designs. Just a small example, but think of radiators supported by elegant tracery rather than a purely functional set of girders, and then extrapolate that out to a whole ship with those sorts of details. That would look great! You could even lean real hard into that star with big train-like water propellant tanks and nuclear thermal rockets to make it into steam.
But how much is it going to cost them to do all that in character design? That's why they scam off copyright of the stuff. They can copy it and then use it in their spacecraft designs. You just have to get the idea.
We'll go even harder into that look and straight up have trains in space like in Sunless Skies, but that derails the discussion from architecture. To get back on track, the Spooky Ships video had two other ships that both took very blatant inspiration from cathedrals and castles and other big stonework structures. They each did it in different ways, but the Ishimura in particular looks very cathedral-y from outside with its two large towers towards the rear and the front section of the ship with those curved panel-y type things that evoke images of flying buttresses. It's fantastic, and one of the many reasons why I love that ship so much. That idea of infusing vessels with Gothic architecture is really cool, and I can't say that without invoking Warhammer 40k. Specifically,
good point. I was like, flying cathedrals? I'll put my real voice in there. But flying cathedrals?
The Imperial Navy are very heavily armed mobile cathedrals, which pretty much describes like half of the Imperium's vehicles. Another Gothic-style ship,
99.9919%.
unless I'm just from Revelation space, though that thing is like 4 really be that visible. That's enough of the Gothic style, which we can see has had plenty of influence. So what about, insect buildings? Can termites create architecture? Because that's what Mass Effect's vessel and station are both based on. But this is a bit of a stretch, so let's move on to one of my favorite architectural styles Mass Effect utilizes. A bit of a stretch, so let's move on to one of my favorite architectural styles Mass Effect utilizes, but not for ships, brutalism. And the big example here is naturally Dune. Brutalism is everywhere in that film, especially on Arrakis, where massive, ugly buildings are needed to keep out the heat. The spacecraft, though, few that we see at least, are also largely in this style. The Atreides craft, the enormous Highliner, all just so good. A lot like 33 Thomas Street, or the Buffalo City Court building, with the edges and texture of those buildings, but with their own unique shape. However, much like how brutalist buildings can very easily end up being bad, ugly, and blown up when transferring across to spacecraft. The Singapore Power Building may look interesting on the ground, but translated to a ship, it would end up being kind of a lame grey space brick. So, architectural styles that look like spaceships. Mercury City Tower is pretty much already a UNSC cruiser or something, and that gets filed under structural expressionism. This thing, or the Bank of China Tower. There's also the very striking Lloyd's building, which is the home of an insurance company that goes back to insuring ships in the age of sail. Some similar buildings that would also be great inspiration for spacecraft are a lot of broadcast towers, which are very slender and often have all sorts of antennas.
I'm gonna ask, have any of you been with almost to my voice? Have any of you been to any of those buildings? He said, put it in the comments, please. Put it in the comments. Okay. I'm just waiting for anyone. You're finished?
Tower in Shanghai, and the Berlin Tower, thin and rocket-like they are, with the round ball parts on them that could very well be propellant tanks or something. There's also the Austin keynote, and tell me this isn't a spaceship movie realistic, as there's a big reason why real spacecraft designs may end up being a big long noodle. I talked about this way back in January in the ISV event. From engines is a huge factor that needs to be considered, and being far away from them is a very easy way of mitigating those risks. If you want to make a ship that is super long but don't want this trusty, greebly look, then skyscrapers in general can make for a great source of inspiration, like the never-built Mile High, Illinois by Frank Lloyd Wright, which I think looks amazing. This vast, glittering needle with foundations that look somewhat like a giant aerospike engine. Likewise, the Burj Khalifa is also a ready-made spacecraft design, but in a neo-futuristic style. Neo-futurism, more than most other styles, is where spacecraft and architecture really blend, or in Star Trek Discovery's 32nd century ships. Love architecture out there though. If you're designing a ship, then have a little look around and see what grabs your interest. Integrate a bit of Art Deco, or hell, even take some shapes from log cabins. That'll make an interesting superstructure. Even the most unlikely combinations can look absolutely stunning, like this incredible piece by Polly Jenker, which mixes hard sci-fi tech like laser turrets, magnetic nozzles, and big radiators with Victorian Gothic. It's gorgeous, and demonstrates my point about using buildings as inspiration perfectly. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and share it around.
Say something weird. He's just funny.
I don't know.
But anyway, let's go to the video. I just wanted to say
So excited.
we still have a number of videos over there that I just want you to know. Please watch, especially this. You're never going to get away with this. You know that, right? And back to the video. Everyone, you like the new front title? I might make it my outro, intro, whatever. Who gives a... Oh, let's stop. I hope this audio quality is good through this microphone. And I hope it gets better. But anyway, let's go about this video. If you know by the title, I just want to tell a few things. My goals, my other stuff. I do it like every week or two. I just do this. My current goals week is to first figure out a unified schedule of plan. We're going to be posting this on my TikTok and YouTube for many people to see. As many people as they can. And trust me, you're not going to escape this for the next probably week of any content that I post in my channel. But I just want to know we have a few different ideas that I'm going to do in my central channel. Currently, I already got a little bit on what my schedule will be on shorts. If you know through my meme collection, I will use my TikTok shorts I flood in my TikTok channel and put it on my main channel. But I will also too add a little bit other stuff like videos. I want to know what people want out of my videos. Do they want 4-minute videos, 6-minute videos, or 10-minute videos, or 20-minute videos? Those are the 4 options. Put it in the comments. I want to know how long should I make my videos on average. Because if I do, I'm going to work on as hard as I can to centralize that into a eh, work. I'm also going to try to centralize my timing. So I can do basically, depending on the schedule, every few days. So, like, if it's a 20-minute thing, it's going to be like every week. If it's a 10-minute thing, it's going to be around every 4 days. If it's a 4 to 2 minute thing, it's going to be every day or every 2 days. So if I do upload that, there might be some extra content, like shorts, or maybe this, just to fill it up. So trust me, if I see more comments about people saying shorter times than longer times, I am doing the shorter times. It's just that I gotta fill it up so YouTube. But anyway, it's also going to be on TikTok. So TikTok, you got a little bit of a chance to pick what I'm going to do on YouTube. And I'm going to be putting this all over my channel again and again and again. And I don't even care about the algorithm. If I do it enough times, the algorithm should give me some comments about this. Okay? I feel confident. Ooh. And future videos are already being planned. I'm thinking about talking about the stock market. Let's see. We're going to be looking through what's currently. How likely is a recession coming? We because even through the economic pain we have, it's technically not a recession yet. So, and